Sir, what lessons do you think the Democrats should learn from this shutdown saga?
Well, the country loses a lot of money when they do this, and they're not getting much, but nobody gets a lot. But it's terrible. What they really wanted was $1.5 trillion for people that came in illegally, people that came in through and out of prisons. You know, we had like Venezuela, they dumped their prisons.
They said that was all exaggerated by you.
Yeah, I know it's exaggerated. They wanted $1.5 trillion for health care from people that were, in some cases, 11,888 exactly murderers, many of whom murdered more than one person. So they came into our country, they poured into our country, and they want to take care. And we're trying to get them out because we don't want 11,000 murderers in our country. You don't want it. Nobody wants it. And we have drug dealers and we have everything else that they want to make sure they got good health care. That's not what our country's about. And it would have hurt other people's health care.
On Obamacare, you raised several times during this shutdown debate that it's clear that this was never going to work without these massive subsidies. Now they wanted to continue the COVID subsidies. So given the fact that Obamacare really can't survive as they thought without these subsidies, what next?
Well, I watched Obama from when this thing came about. As you know, I opposed it very strongly. Unfortunately, we had a couple of negative votes, which should never have happened. But I said it's going to be a disaster, and I was exactly right. The premiums have gone up like rocket ships, and I'm not just talking about recently. I'm talking about for years they've been going up. And he said premiums will go down, everything will be wonderful. It's horrible health insurance at a very high price. And what I want, and probably what you're alluding to, is the fact that I want, instead of going to the insurance companies, I want the money to go into an account for people where the people buy their own health insurance. It's so good. The insurance will be better. It'll cost less. Everybody's going to be happy. They're going to feel like entrepreneurs. They're actually able to go out and negotiate their own health insurance. And they can use it only for that reason. That's the beauty, only for that purpose. And if we did that, that would be so exciting. Call it Trump care, call it whatever you want to call it, but anything but Obamacare. Obamacare is a disaster, just like he was as a president.
How do Republicans avoid this shutdown saga from reoccurring on January 30th when this deal ends?
Well, we're trying to put in a bill, as you know, the bill or a bill, that you can never do that again. You can't just shut down the government because you're trying to renegotiate a deal that you didn't. Don't forget, when we passed the great big beautiful bill, which gives you tremendous middle-income tax benefits and it gives so much to everybody. Think of it: no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax, very importantly, on overtime. If you work overtime, you don't have to pay tax. So many other things. It gives you a deduction if you buy a car, you borrow money, you put a loan on a car. You're allowed to deduct the interest. That's never happened in our country before. You know, that's always been for the richer people. They're allowed to take deductions. Now you can deduct interest on a car. So we have tremendous goodies in there. You know, they like to try and disparage it. Oh, it's the greatest bill ever passed in the history of our country. That's why we did it all in one. It's 4 years worth of goodies, and it's largely for jobs and for the middle class and for security.
But the Democrats clearly wanted to renegotiate this and hold the country hostage, did it not?
They didn't get what they wanted in the great big beautiful bill. And so what they tried to do is renegotiate it at a time where they hold the country hostage.
One of the big problems for the country I encountered on Saturday coming back from Florida to D.C. with the airports. So hours delayed, thousands of flight cancellations that are continuing this week. Yeah. You put out a Truth Social post earlier today.
I did.
Where you blasted the air traffic controllers who had not shown up for work and offered potentially a bonus of $10,000 for those who have worked despite the shutdown. Are you worried that given the fact that we have a deficit of air traffic controllers still, I know we're trying to change that, that might be a difficult
No, we don't
position?
have much of a deficit, and we have a lot of people want the job. But I was not happy when I saw all these people. Oh, we have to look. Life is not so easy for anybody. Our country's never done better. We should not have had people leaving their jobs. And what I basically did is say the ones that stayed, of which there were a lot of them, I'm sending them a $10,000 bonus.
Where's that money coming from?
I don't know. I'll get it from someplace. I always get the money from someplace regardless. It doesn't matter. I do a lot of bonuses for people because it's really something that, it's like the American way when you think about it. So here's somebody that goes and shows up every single day. Some of them showed up early because they knew there was going to be a problem. Those people should be rewarded. Others, we can't make it. We can't. You know, a lot of the people that showed up also had a second job. They took a second job temporarily, but they all know the money's coming, and the money was coming. So I want to reward the people that showed up without a lot of nonsense, without a lot of talk. They did their job, and in many cases, they worked longer hours to get us through this period.
When can we expect the flights to resume more or less on better schedules?
Well, you know, I've heard a lot of people say, in fact, on your show 2 nights ago, somebody said, you know, I just took a plane. I got better service than I got in the past. Now, maybe because a little bit fewer people are traveling.
There are a lot of delays now, sir.
But a lot of people, but a lot of people are getting through. I think the people are going to start showing up. I was very strong on that truth. I said, now you get to work.
Did you remember the air traffic control firing of Reagan in 1983, I believe it was?
One of the highlights of his life. You want to know the truth? He fired them because they didn't show up to work, and he never let them come back.
The economy was listed as a top concern. I know you know this, for voters in New Jersey, New York, Virginia. I know you've been all over the affordability issue today and for the last several months. Eggs, gas, dinner costs for Thanksgiving way down. But other things, as you noted, have gone up. Beef, coffee,
but they're going to come
auto
down very
repairs.
shortly.
Is this a voter perception issue of the economy, or is there more that needs to be done by Republicans on Capitol Hill, or done in terms of policy?
More than anything else, it's a con job by the Democrats. They're saying, they just have to say, you know, they put out something, say today costs are up. They feed it to the anchors of ABC, CBS, and NBC, and a lot of other, and, you know, CNN, and et cetera. And it's like a standard. I'll never forget they had used a word like manufactured. Do you remember the word manufactured? It's a manufactured economy. Nobody uses that word. Every anchor broke through manufactured. They do exactly what they say. It's such a rigged system. So are you ready? Costs are way down. Gasoline is going to be hitting $2 pretty soon, or around $2. Gasoline is at $2.70 now. And it was at $4.50 under Biden, under Sleepy Joe. When gasoline comes down, when energy comes down, and everybody agrees energy's down, we're drilled, you know, drill, baby, drill. We're going like wild. We produce more gasoline, oil and gas in the last month than we ever have before, by far. And we're going to also end up filling up the national strategic reserves, which were taken out by Biden in order to try and win an election. Didn't work out too well. They tapped in. That's supposed to be for war, for national emergency, not to get.
So are you saying that voters are misperceiving how they feel, or?
So when I took over, you remember?
Because you said Biden did that too, because he was saying things were great, but things weren't great.
It's synonymous, Biden and Kamala, you know, because you didn't know who the hell was campaigning. I mean, it got to a point. So I was up by 20 points on Biden or some crazy number. And they said, all right, let's get him out. We'll put a new one. This never happened to anybody. All of a sudden, they have somebody new. And they had the 6-week honeymoon, you know, which was standard in the world of politics. You get a little honeymoon. And she had her little honeymoon, but then eventually people got to know her, too. And then they had the 60 Minutes catastrophe where they, you know, changed her answer.
Housing costs are still out of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years. And what it means is you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit. But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates. And I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few months, fortunately. I have a guy too late, you know, Jerome Powell. We call him too late. He was too late in everything, except when it came to before the, you know, the so-called Democrat election, which didn't work. But we're going to get interest rates down. But even with interest rates up, the economy is the strongest it's ever been. You know, you asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rates. You know, interest rates are down despite the Fed. Now, if we had a normal person at the Fed, would have really low interest rates, and we will soon have that. We'll have somebody that's.
Then why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs. Even the tariff thing, it's such a disgrace. I'm watching them saying, well, no money would have to be paid back because it's not that much. It's trillions and trillions of dollars would have to be paid back.
If the Supreme Court rules against the tariffs.
It would be a disaster for our country. Now, will I do something? I'll figure something out because I do. That's what I do in life. I figure things out. But it's so... President Xi was willing to do the rare earth thing, that's magnets. Now, nobody knows what a magnet is. If you don't have a magnet, you don't make a car. You don't make a computer. You don't make televisions and radios and all the other things. You don't make anything. It's a 30-year effort to monopolize a very important thing. Now, within 2 years, we'll have magnets, all the magnets we want, but we don't. Because of tariffs, I called. I said, listen, here's the story. You're going to play the magnet. I'm going to play the tariff on you. And for national security purposes, I raised the tariff by 100% over and above what they were paying, which was 55. So he was at 155%. Within 10 minutes, I got a call. We'd like to meet. And we settled it out. And we made a wonderful deal, great deal for our country. But we made a great deal. We would have had a closed country. We would have had a depression. The whole world would have had a depression.
Doesn't it show us that we're too dependent on China? It's not just on rare earths, sir. We're dependent on them for still pharmaceuticals, still key industrial components. The Journal did a huge piece, and they're fairly pro-China, but a very extensive piece.
It's all coming back, Laura, because of tariffs. I'm charging them tariffs of 100% and 150% for pharmaceuticals. What's happening? The pharmaceutical companies are all back here building plants right now. That's part of the $20 trillion of money that's come in because of tariffs. And we're not dependent on China. We're dependent on having a smart president. If we have a smart president, we're going to have no trouble. If we have a guy like we had last time, who was such an embarrassment, if we have stupid presidents, whether you have tariffs or don't have tariffs, it doesn't matter. If we didn't have tariffs, if I didn't have the power of the tariffs, right now we would have a country that wouldn't be making cars, wouldn't be making anything.
A new detailed report on CNN, of all places, documents China's expansion of 60% of its missile facilities. It's staggering, bigger than anyone had ever thought, more robust growth. And over the weekend, the new Japanese prime minister, who I know you like a lot, Kaiichi, called the Taiwan situation extremely severe in its phase, and that they may consider any move on Taiwan by China to be a national survival crisis for Japan. Now, that gets better, a Chinese diplomat today said in a social media post that she, the prime minister of Japan, should be beheaded for her comments. These are not our friends, sir, are they, in China?
Well, a lot of our allies aren't our friends either, Laura. Our allies took advantage of us on trade more than China did. And China took big advantage. I mean, we built, because
we built their military.
We built their military. Yeah. We built their whole thing. The whole thing was, and by the way, if you remember, in my first term, I took in hundreds of billions of tariffs. I put tariffs on China very early. Then when we got hit with COVID, we fought that. We did a very good job, but that was COVID. It came from a certain place in China.
Right.
You remember?
Another great gift from China.
That was another little gift we got. But look, I get along great with President Xi. I get along great with China. But the only way you're going to get along well with China is you have to deal from a position of strength. We have tremendous strength because of tariffs. We have tremendous strength because of what I've done. I've rebuilt our military, and they have a lot of missiles, but we have a lot of missiles, too. And they don't want to mess around with us, I can tell you that.
A lot of MAGA folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans
You would
of,
have the
fans of the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities would
so
go
we're
down the
dependent on
tubes.
China to keep
No,
our university
not China,
system going?
But I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, you know, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. You know, the students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive. But at the same time, I know you and I disagree.
Yeah.
We're never going to agree on
No.
it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them, but I view it as a business. We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. You know, people are shocked. Remember, Hillary Clinton said, we'll be in a war. I stopped 8 wars in the last 9 months. I don't want to be in wars. If I am in a war, we're going to win the thing fast, and it'll be violent. But you know what? I don't want to be in wars. But one thing, you don't want to cut half of the people, half of the students from all over the world that are coming into our country, destroy our entire university and college system. I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't lose any.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.